Let's talk about mental overload. This is the most common reason you go blank. Imagine your brain's working memory is a small desk. You can only fit so many papers on it at once. When you are trying to find a specific word, your brain needs space on that desk to retrieve it. But if you are also thinking about your to-do list, worrying about an email, and listening to background noise, the desk is full. The brain has to prioritize. It decides that maintaining your train of thought and monitoring your environment are more important than retrieving a specific adjective. The word gets pushed off the desk. It's still in the filing cabinet of your long-term memory, but your working memory is too cluttered to go get it. You aren't forgetting, you are just multitasking yourself into a bottleneck. Now, let's talk about stress and anxiety. This is where biology really takes over. When you are anxious, maybe you're in a job interview or an argument, your body floods with cortisol. This is the stress hormone. Evolutionarily, cortisol is designed to help you survive a physical threat, like a predator. When cortisol spikes, your brain shifts resources away from the prefrontal cortex, which handles complex language and logic, and moves it to the primitive parts of the brain that handle fighting or running away. Your brain literally thinks, "We are in danger. This is not the time for fancy vocabulary." The pathway to your words gets blocked because your brain is prioritizing survival over speech. That blankness you feel is actually your survival instinct working a little too well. Now, let's talk about fatigue and sleep deprivation. We often think of sleep as just resting, but for the brain, it is a cleaning cycle. During deep sleep, a system called the glymphatic system opens up and washes away the metabolic waste that builds up between your neurons during the day. If you don't sleep enough, that waste stays there. It acts like sludge in the gears. The electrical signals that carry your memories and words have to push through this chemical fog. When you are tired, the signal starts the journey to find the word, but it moves too slowly or fizzles out before it reaches your mouth. That's why you can feel the word is there, but you just can't grab it. The connection is literally tired. Now, let's talk about attention and distraction loss. Memory retrieval requires a sustained spotlight of focus. You have to look at the memory to activate it. But we live in a world of constant distraction. If your attention shifts for even a fraction of a second while you are speaking, maybe a phone buzzes or your mind wanders, the retrieval process is severed. It's like downloading a file and pulling the internet cable halfway through. The download fails. You experience this as the tip of the tongue phenomenon. The search started, but your attention shifted before the search could finish, leaving you with the ghost of the word but not the word itself. Now, let's talk about age-related processing slowdown. This is the one people fear the most, but let's reframe it. Yes, as we age, the speed of our neural transmission slows down slightly. The wires aren't quite as fast as they used to be. But there is another theory called the crowded house theory. By the time you are 40 or 50, you have stored millions more words, faces, and memories than you had at 20. Your internal library is massive. When you go to look for a word, your brain has to search through a much larger database. It takes longer to find a specific book in a massive national library than it does in a tiny school library. The delay isn't necessarily a lack of ability, it's a side effect of having more wisdom and information stored away. Now, let's talk about emotional interference. Have you ever noticed that when you're incredibly angry or incredibly sad, you can't speak clearly? Strong emotions take up a huge amount of bandwidth in the brain. The emotional centers, like the amygdala, become highly active and can essentially shout over the language centers. It's hard to find the right word when your brain is screaming with emotion. The neural pathways for language get crowded out by the intensity of what you are feeling. That's why the perfect sentence often comes to you 20 minutes after the argument is over. Once the emotion settles down, the language pathways open up again. Now, let's talk about information overload. We consume more data in a single day than our ancestors consumed in months. We are constantly scrolling, skimming, and switching between topics. This trains our brains for shallow processing. We get used to recognizing things quickly rather than recalling them deeply. When you try to pull a specific word out of deep storage, your brain struggles because it's been in skim mode all day. We are feeding our brain so much noise that the signal-to-noise ratio gets messed up, making it harder to pinpoint that one specific piece of data you need. Finally, let's talk about normal memory misfires. Sometimes there's no big reason. The brain is not a computer. It's a wet, organic network of cells. Sometimes a neuron just doesn't fire. Sometimes the chemical messenger doesn't make the jump across the gap. It's a random glitch. It doesn't mean you're sick, it doesn't mean you're declining, and it doesn't mean you're stupid. It just means you're human. The network is complex, and occasionally a connection drops. Usually, if you stop trying so hard and let your brain relax, the connection resets and the word pops into your head.